I would like to welcome everybody to this discussion on bridge materials. I am Rudronil Ghosh. I have with me Dr. Dhiman Basu, Anindita De and Muhammad Masood Akhtar. All of us are members of Expert Committee on School Education, Government of West Bengal. You all are aware that due to the COVID pandemic, the regular teaching learning process in the schools is severely affected. This may result in learning gaps in the learners. The bridge materials will be helpful in minimizing these learning gaps. These bridge materials will act as an accelerated learning package. Basically, these materials will help to make the learning fast paced. These bridge materials will be used for all the learners after the reopening of the schools, at least for the first 100 days. And if needed, these materials may be used for some learners even beyond that period. The main focus of the bridge materials is to connect and bridge the important learning outcomes of the two classes of the previous 2 academic years with the most essential learning outcomes of the present academic year or present class. In some instances, the bridge materials will act as a foundational study content. The teachers may use the textbooks along with the bridge materials if they feel the need to do so. The learners will be evaluated based on the bridge materials. Now, I will briefly go into the general structure of the bridge materials. At the beginning of each topic, there is a list of what the learners will be able to do after going through the topic. This will enable the learners to know whether they have actually achieved the desired level as per the given list. Next comes the content part. The content part is represented with the help of various charts, diagrams, tables, etc. After the content part comes the part that is named as points to remember, where some relevant points related to the topic have been listed for the convenience of the students. After this section, the students are informed where in the textbooks they will find more detailed discussion about that topic. At the last, there are some sample questions. Apart from this, I would like to mention that after the completion of 2 or 3 topics, a sample question paper is included. These sample question papers will help in gauging the level of concept attainment of the learners. So, this is the basic structure of the bridge materials for our environment for the classes 3, 4 and 5. Well, now I will come to Dhiman sir. Dhiman sir, will you please tell us what are the topics that are included in the bridge materials for our environment for class 3?
Thank you, Rudin sir. I will definitely do it. There are 4 topics included in this bridge material. These are body, food, clothes and houses. I will elaborate on the first 2. Coming to body, we have kept discussions on the 5 senses and their importance in everyday life. We have also introduced the necessity of various physical activities that helps us build good physique, and finally we have introduced the concept of the various organs and how to take care of them. In the next section, food, we have introduced food of animal and plant origin, and the learners are expected to be able to differentiate between various types of food. And we have introduced how cooking has changed the face of civilization and the use of fire in cooking. And spoilage of food is an important aspect, and we have introduced the notion of microbial spoilage of foods by fungi and other bacterial degradations. And finally, we have introduced the notion of various fuels in cooking, fuels that are used in cooking. Fuels are important in as much as they give us heat, and with that heat we cook various types of food, and we have used small poems in order to make things attractive to the students. Now I would ask Anita ma'am to elaborate upon the rest topics included here.
Thank you, Dhiman sir. Now I shall briefly talk about two other topics that are related to our environment in bridge material for class 3. The first one is clothes. Different types of clothes that are associated with different occupations have been discussed. Next, the relationship between seasonal variations and clothes is included. After that, different types of materials for making clothes and the process of manufacturing clothes have been described briefly. Next, the things that early humans used as clothes have been discussed. Various activities are included along with a discussion of the whole topic. Next topic is houses. Here we have introduced a concept of map for our learners. Students will be able to determine different directions on the map. They will be able to identify differences and similarities between various objects of houses and schools. Then various types of walls and ceilings of houses have been described elaborately. After that, the construction of shelters to protect from natural calamities have been described. The evolution of the shelters of humans have been described. Various types of activities are included for our learners in this topic. Now, I would like to go to Rudronil sir. Rudronil sir, please tell us how different topics are dealt in bridge material for class 4.
Thank you, Anita madam. In the bridge materials for our environment for class 4, we have the following topics. They are elements of environment, the world of living beings; elements of environment, the world of non-living things; body, weather and habitat; our sky; human experiences with nature; and lastly, occupation and resources. I will discuss briefly about the following two topics. They are elements of environment, the world of living beings, and body. Now, let us first talk about the topic elements of environment, the world of living beings. In this topic, at the beginning, the characteristics of different organisms like birds, house lizards are compared with the characteristics of certain non-living things like pens, kites, etc. Then certain characteristics of the living beings like breathing, reproduction, etc. are discussed. After that comes the topic that deals with how one organism depends upon another organism in the living world. Next, how the familiar organisms can be grouped in plants and animals are discussed. After that, the diversity of plants and animals are explained. The topic ends with a discussion on the organisms that are on the verge of being extinct. Along with this, there are discussions on the ways to conserve the endangered organisms. Now, I will come to the next topic of class 4, that is body. At the beginning of this topic, the types of teeth, their functions and the ways to take care of teeth have been discussed. After that, there is a brief discussion on how food is digested. This is represented with a proper diagram of the digestive system of human body, pointing out some important organs of the digestive system. After that, there is a brief discussion on inhalation and exhalation. At the end, while discussing the ways to get energy from food, a brief mention of the role of oxygen has been made. Now, I will like to come to Masood sir. Masood sir, can you please tell us about some other topics that are included in the bridge materials for our environment for class 4?
Thank you, Rudranil sir. Now, I am going to discuss on the topic human experiences with nature. There are several subtopics included in this topic, such as water to live, use of stones, use of fire, use of metals, use of wheels, etc. We all know that water is essential to survive. Ancient civilizations were spread and developed across the banks of rivers, and ancient civilizations developed through the uses of stones, fires, metals and wheels. This topic also contains a subtopic titled Plants are our life. We get food from many trees, we get medicines from some plants. These plants are called medicinal plants. Medicinal plants played an important role in curing diseases. Now, I will discuss on next topic of class 4, that is occupations and resources. There are several subtopics included in this topic. These are occupations in hill region, various occupations in various places, various type of handicrafts and related occupations, various dance forms and various folk tales or folk songs. Various kinds of handicrafts such as pottery, doll making, mask making, dokra and nokshi katha, these are discussed here, and various folk tales or folk songs like Shari Gan, Baul Gan, Tushu Gan, Bhadu Gan, and various dance forms like Chhou Nach, Gombhira Pala dance, Jhumur dance, these are discussed here. Now I will come to Dhiman sir. Dhiman sir, would you please elaborate the race topic of class 4?
Yes, certainly I do. Thank you, Masood. Here we have introduced the notion of solids, liquids and gases and the characteristics of these three phases and the differences between them. We have introduced the concept of phase transition of water, and the students are already familiar with various natural phenomena that happen around them which involve various phase transitions of water, formation of clouds, formation of dew and other things. So these things have been introduced in some detail and in a lucid language so that they can interpret these phenomena in terms of phase change of water. We have also introduced the notion of volume and mass here. The concept of volume is a difficult one, so we have put emphasis upon the experiential learning process where they will have to perform certain simple experiments through which they will build the concept of volume, and that also about mass of gases. And after that they are asked to explain certain phenomena happening around them in terms of phase transitions and especially formation of dew, rain and clouds. In the next section we have introduced weather and climate, and here the students are given some qualitative description about the components of air, that means the oxygen, nitrogen and other gases, and after that they are given some description of the difference between clean and polluted air, and the role of oxygen and carbon dioxide in biosphere is also introduced here. The characteristics of various seasons have been introduced in this topic, and this is important for them to recognize the seasonal variations of temperature and rainfall and other things here. And finally there is an important topic called the loss of habitat. And first we have introduced the notion of habitats, and then we have moved to the impact of habitat loss is very big. We have already lost a number of animal and plant species, and this is a continuous process, so it's very important that they be introduced to this concept of habitat and habitat loss, and we have talked about it at some length. Next comes our sky. In our sky we all know that the earth revolves around the sun, and that brings seasons. Now it is very difficult for the learners to follow the motion of earth and the change in the relative position of earth with respect to the sun. So we have introduced simple experiments like following the length of a shadow throughout the day and to infer about the relative positions of earth and sun from that experiment. We have also included some experiments with candle and a ball where they will learn the concept of day and night. And finally we have introduced the phases of moon that depends upon the relative position of earth, sun and the moon. And since moon is the natural satellite of earth, and we are now having several thousands of artificial satellites revolving around the earth, we have also included it in this topic so that they can have some glimpse of the necessity that prompts us to set such satellites into the orbit, and the contribution of Indian scientists in this regard has also been mentioned. Now I would request Anindita ma'am to elaborate upon the topics that we have introduced in the bridge material for class 5.
Thank you, Dhiman sir. First of all, I would like to mention the name of the topics that are mentioned in bridge material for class 5. These are the human body, physical environment, soil, water and biodiversity, a general introduction to West Bengal, environment and resource, and environment and production. Now, I will briefly talk about a general introduction to West Bengal. At the beginning of the topic, we have introduced a political map of West Bengal, from where our students will be able to identify different districts of the state. Next, the physiographic divisions of West Bengal have been discussed elaborately. The students will be able to identify different physiographic divisions of West Bengal with the help of the map of physiographic division of West Bengal. Moreover, different types of landforms have been described elaborately. After that, the height of land, various rivers, natural vegetation of several regions of West Bengal have been discussed. The course of rivers of South Bengal and North Bengal have been depicted in drainage map of West Bengal by arrows. With the help of it, students will be able to identify the slope of any region. At the end of the topic, the historical perspective of South Bengal is included. Various relevant activities are included in the topic for our learners. Now, my next topic is environment and production. After receiving this bridge material, you will find that at the beginning of the topic, different types of agricultural pattern have been discussed. Then the manner in which the physiography, soil and climate of several regions that influence the agricultural practices have been discussed. Next, the uses of manures and pesticides have been mentioned. After that, varieties of fishes have been discussed. Different types of fishing gears have been described briefly. After that, awareness about the conservation of endangered fishes has been highlighted upon. Apart from this, some relevant activities have been designed for our learners along with the discussion of the whole topic. I will go to Rudronil sir. Rudronil sir, please tell us how rest of the topics are dealt in bridge material for class 5.
Thank you, Anita madam. For class 5, I will discuss two topics from the bridge materials. They are human body and physical environment, soil, water and biodiversity. Now, let us first talk about human body. This topic starts with discussion on how the skin can be compared with an armor. Then different functions of the skin are described. After that, the role of melanin in determining the body color of a person has been explained. Not only that, the role of melanin in preventing skin cancer in humans has also been discussed. After that, there is a brief discussion on the preliminary concepts of hair. Then there is a discussion on the bones and bone joints. While discussing the bones and bone joints, some important bones of the human body have been shown in a diagram, so that the students can identify the name and location of those bones. After that, the role of bone joints and muscles in performing different works have been elaborated. This topic, that means the human body, ends with a description of how a simple stethoscope can be made, and also there is a discussion on how to use this simple stethoscope to hear heart sounds. Lastly, the functions of human heart have been discussed. Now, I will go to the next topic, that is physical environment, soil, water and biodiversity. This topic starts with a discussion on the natural and unnatural components of soil. Under the natural components of soil, petals of flowers, parts of leaves of plants, broken shells of snails, etc. are included. And under the unnatural components, pieces of plastic, pieces of medicine strips, refills of plastic paints are included. After this, there is a discussion on the characteristics of different types of soil, like sandy, clay and loamy. And while discussing these characteristics, the water holding capacity of these type of soils has been stressed upon, and one or two activities are given to find out the water holding capacity of these three types of soils. After this part, there is a discussion on the chemical reactions that occur around us in the environment. After this, there is a discussion about the preliminary concept of fertility of soil. Then the cultivation method of different crops like paddy are briefly dealt upon. Then there are certain topics like methods of water treatment, the usage and conservation of groundwater and rainwater. After this discussion, a new type of topic has been introduced, that is wetlands. What are the wetlands? What are its characteristics? The biodiversity that we can find in the wetlands. They may include fishes, snakes, civets, mongoose, etc. Then there is a brief discussion on domestication of certain animals in our daily life and the benefit that we get from them. Next, there is a discussion on the preliminary concept of grouping animals based on the presence or absence of vertebral column or backbone. Lastly, there is a discussion on the endangered local organisms, and while discussing the plight of endangered organisms, the importance of conservation of biodiversity has been stressed upon. And in both these two topics, several activities have been included so that the learners can get valuable experiences, and also they can apply the knowledge that they have gained by going through these topics. Well, now I will come to Masood sir. Masood sir, will you please tell us about some of the other topics that are included in the bridge materials for our environment for class 5?
Thank you, Rudronil sir. Now I am going to discuss on the topic environment and wealth. There are several subtopics included in the topic, such as remembering the great, celebration of anniversaries, nobody should be left out, and so on. After going through the subtopic titled Remembering the Great, learners will be able to discuss on the contribution and role of great personalities, famous poet and writer like Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay, Rabindranath Tagore, Kazi Nazrul Islam, social and religious reformer like Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Henry Louis Vivian Diderot, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, renowned scientists like Acharya Prafullo Chandra Ray, Acharya Jagadish Chandra Bosu, famous freedom fighters like Mahatma Gandhi, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, Khudiram Bosu, Masterda Surya Sen. Their contribution and their important role discussed on this subtopic. Female freedom fighters like Kalpana Dotto, Matangini Hajra and Pritilata Wadedar, their contribution and struggle for independence is also discussed here. This topic contains a subtopic titled Celebration of Anniversaries. After going through this topic, learners will be able to discuss why do we celebrate anniversaries, like Republic Day, Independence Day, Teachers Day, Children's Day, birth and death anniversaries of great personalities. Last subunit of this topic is nobody should be left out. Through this subtopic, learner will be able to discuss the role and contribution of Birsa Munda, Sidhu Murmu and Titumir. Their contribution for Indian freedom struggle and depressed class is notable. Sidhu Murmu, Birsa Munda and Titumir, they organized a movement and set up an example for future rebellion. They became the voice of depressed class and they became the representative of marginal class.
Thank you, Masood sir. With this, we have come to the end of today's discussion. This endeavor will only prove to be fruitful if these bridge materials are able to minimize the learning gaps of the learners. This is only possible with your help. We are looking forward to your active cooperation. Thank you.